Okay, hello and welcome. It looks like we have gone live. Hi and welcome. My name's Ruth Genoway, and we're back looking at planting seeds here in York. And today, particularly, we're interested in spinach and chard seeds, and they're very similar. They're actually reasonably similar to beetroot as well, all the same sort of related family. So we'll have a look at planting those seeds, and we'll also take a look at some of the seedlings that we were doing earlier on. So we've got some parsley seeds that we started a few weeks ago, and we've got some basil that we started a few weeks ago. So they're doing really well now. So we need to start looking at those and taking them into bigger pots rather than these little seed trays. And we can also check in on the seeds that we planted last week as well. So we'll start off with the Swiss chard and the spinach seeds. Now, both of these can be planted outside once once the ground has warmed up enough for the seeds to go, oh yes, it is growing season. So if we do get the next couple of weeks without frosts, then it's possible to put these in a planter outside or in the ground outside if you've got a raised bed or something like that. Oh, hi Nana Nelly, welcome to the video. You spotted me on the Sustainable-ish Festival as well. Thank you very much. So I'm going to concentrate on the spinach seed, but the chard seed is very similar seeds as well today. So these ones say we can plant them indoors or outdoors, but it's been quite cold over the last few days. So I'm going to plant these as seeds in my seed tray and do them on the windowsill, and then I can plant them out in a couple of weeks once they're a bit bigger. They'll also be safer from slugs and pests if they go into the ground a little bit bigger. So one of the things I don't like doing is using slug pellets around my garden because I've got a hedgehog. So I love my visiting hedgehog. So I never use slug pellets because that would run the risk of actually poisoning my hedgehog. So I've got to get these seeds going so that they're big enough so that the pests don't get them. So spinach seeds first of all, and we've got quite a lot of seeds usually in these, and they're very reasonable price from the supermarkets and garden centres and things. And where I'm going to plant them today, I happen to have some of these sort of little module pots. This one is, Nana's asking which type of spinach is it. This one says it's America spinach. And I tend to find that I leave my spinach to seed and then it regrows the next day, but it actually does stay as a plant over winter. So it is really good from that perspective. You can also buy seeds that say they're perpetual spinach on here. So you've got some choices with spinach, baby leaf spinach, perpetual spinach, or these sort of standard chard type spinaches as well. So I'm going for some spinach America this time. So I've put some compost in my pots so far, and I just need to make sure that the compost is nice and damp so that the seeds perk up and know it's time to grow. So I'm damping down that compost to start off with, and you also want to just kind of press it down. So I want to press the compost so it's a nice sort of solid base for those, and as they're sort of sending their roots down and things, and if I need to transfer these into the ground, the module of compost comes out all at once. If it's nice and compact, obviously with the roots in it as well, then it'll be easier to pull those out and pop those on. So I've filled it up with compost, I've pushed the compost down, I've watered it, and the seeds that we've got for the spinach are different types of seeds depending on whether it's sort of chard or beetroot or the spinach seeds. I'm going to try and do the sort of what do the seeds look like thing without actually dropping them on the floor. So they're reasonable size, sort of round seeds for the spinach that I'm going to be planting. But some of the others are more like beetroot seed, the sort of knobbly seeds as well. What I tend to find is that somebody's saying if you're planting spinach and it's come over winter, it will probably bolt this time of year, and also if it's planted and it gets too dry, it will also go straight to flowering and then seed. So keeping the spinach damp if you're going to plant it out is also a good idea. But there are lots of people that do different things with their spinach. I'm a sort of Swiss chard and spinach sort of girl, so I tend to like having spinach through the winter, but I also like having some of the spinach leaves in salads in summer, so I tend to crop them reasonably small to go in the salads and then plant another bunch over autumn, so that I can, well, late summer, August, September, so that I can have spinach throughout the winter as well, because it's quite hardy. Amanda's saying here, Charles Downing says that sometimes it can bolt this time of year if it's too dry. So good point there, Amanda. So I'm going to put quite a few of these seeds in each of my pots here with each of my modules. I can then separate these out and plant them. So I'm putting sort of 4 or 5 seeds in each of these little modules, and we've kind of got the seeds going in there, and I'm just going to sort of carry on sprinkling those in the remaining sort of slots. Not very exciting watching me do this slightly off camera. So I've got some seeds in each of those slots there. I can water them in, and then I can put some of the compost on the top there and press them down. And again, if I'm doing it on the windowsill, I don't want these to dry out, so either put a covering over the top, either put them in one of the if you've got a grape pot or whatever, you can put that over the top, or you can put them in a carrier bag until they start germinating. So compost in there on top of those seeds. Looks like I've left mine outside, so hang on a sec. So I'm just going to put a little bit more compost over the top of those seedlings there, just covering them up. If you're planting them outside, I tend to put more compost over the top, probably about, or soil, probably about 1 centimetre or so, so the seeds, again, they don't dry out and nothing comes and so the pigeons don't come and spot them and go and bury those a little bit deeper if they're going outside. But I've just got sort of 3/4 centimetre or 1/2 centimetre of compost on the top there. And again, just pat it down a little bit so the seed's definitely in touch with that compost, and they can start growing into a plastic bag and onto the windowsill to set those off. Excellent. So that's our first little lot. If you are looking at other types of spinach, they are all treated in a very similar way. So, and the same with chard. You'll probably find that, let's just show you the different sort of shaped seeds that you might get if you've got sort of beetroot or chard seed, because it's not, they don't always look exactly the same depending on the different types. So these ones are not the round seeds that we saw in the previous one. They're very much a sort of knobbly seed, more like a beetroot sort of seed. If you've got the sort of different coloured Swiss chard ones, then they're sort of very knobbly sort of seeds, multi-sided sort of seeds that you get there. So again, we plant them in a very similar way, slightly different looking seeds, but we plant them and treat them in a very similar way. And again, you can pick those. You can either, when they're small leaves, eat them like spinach, or you can cook them up like spinach as well. And I love the colours of these. This is the sort of thing that you could grow in a flower bed. We often have these in our edible beds in town because they look lovely and bright and almost a decorative sort of plant when they're growing. So I really like the Swiss chard and particularly the rainbow chards where you get lots of different colours. Okay, so that's setting those off. Again, they don't take very long to germinate. They'll probably be sort of 7 to 14 days to germinate, and then those will be popping up out of the pots, and I can take that plastic covering off once you start seeing the seeds showing their faces. So we've got those. What about the ones that I planted last week then? So these ones are the chives and the spring onions that we had a look at planting in last week's session. And this is just after what we're doing with Friday, so it's 8 days. But we've got some nice spring onions sort of coming up there. These look very similar to leeks and chives, and all of them sort of put up this single sort of grass-like stem when we're first growing them, and then we can plant those in a row outside if we want, or we can just carry on growing them in this pot on the windowsill. And if there are some that are very close together like this, you might want to thin them out a little bit so that the spring onions have a chance to sort of swell and grow and not get crowded out. But I'm very pleased with those. They're coming along really nicely after just 8 days. So that was the spring onion ones. The chives, I was thinking, oh, the chives aren't coming up. Spring onion is a couple of days ago. But just over the last couple of days, we've also got some chives starting to show there as well. I'm not sure whether they're really showing very well on screen. Oh yeah, you can just see them there when I turn them to the light. So we've got some little chives popping their heads up there as well. So again, we can grow those on a windowsill. We can grow them outside. Chives are fairly hardy, and chives are also great because you can just keep snipping them and they'll just keep growing, particularly if you give them a nice good bit of compost to grow in. And they're also perennial, so although they die back over winter, next spring they'll just pop up again. And if you've got mature chives, these ones probably not this year, but chives from last year will occasionally throw up these lovely little pom-pom shoots with a purple pom-pom flower on the top. So you get chive flowers as well. And the chive flowers are also edible. So you can add those to your salads as well. So both spring onions and chives look to be doing really well. And now they've popped up out of the soil, I can take the plastic bag out off them and I can put them back on my windowsill and carry on watering them and let those grow nice and big. I'll probably put those out outside once they're a little bit bigger than this, because the sounds like the frosts have finished. So those are looking really good as well. So from a little bit a little few weeks earlier, we also planted some other herbs, and that's what I'm going to be taking a look at in the next little bit, which is the basil and the parsley that we started growing about 3 weeks ago. So the basil here is looking really nice, really strong and healthy. You can start using it as leaves like this one. This particular basil I've got is a slightly lemon flavoured one. So it's got slightly pointier leaves than some of the basils that you get, but you actually get all sorts of different basil seeds. So as well as the normal sweet basil, you can get a purple leafed variety, you can get this lemony one with slightly pointy leaves, you get some basil leaves, really big leaves. Sweet Genovese is much more of a round, larger leaf. All sorts of different basils for you to try. So there are more than just the one that you get in the supermarket. And these are just annuals, so not like the chives. You will only get them for this season. So plant up now, enjoy throughout the summer. If you get a large crop, you can make pesto out of basil, of course. You can put it in tomato sauces, you can put it on pizzas, you can put it in salads, all the rest of that. But it's not going to grow very big in this relatively little pot. So what I'm going to do is split these up and put them in slightly larger pots. Obviously you can still use yogurt pots or any other containers. You want to make sure that you don't overwater. So put some holes in the bottom there if you're using a yogurt pot or whatever. So I'm just going to go and fill up a couple of these pots, and we'll have a look at putting some of these on into slightly larger containers. With most basil that you get from a supermarket, and actually same for the parsley as well, if you actually have a look at it, it's probably not just one plant. It's most likely to be 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 plants together to make it look really bushy. So I take the same approach with mine. If there's one plant that's looking really healthy and growing really big, then you could put it into a pot on its own. But with most of these, you can just put a small clump of them into a pot. So what I'm doing here is I want to get the basil out of one end of this. This one's quite I like these pots. So they come in kind of like 3 little sections. So I can kind of ease out the plants from just one of those sections. Ruth didn't actually water this enough, so the soil's all dropping off. If you water them before you try and repot them, then the soil tends to stick to the roots better, and it makes them slightly less stressed. But I didn't water those quite enough. And I can either put all 8 of these into one pot, or I can split them up so I've got a kind of like 4 and a 5. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm just going to split them down the middle there and put kind of a clump of 4 in one pot and a clump of 5 in the other. So I'm getting my pot there. I've got soil kind of halfway up at the moment, and I'm just going to make a slight dimple in the middle there and just spread those little seedlings out slightly, and then I'm going to top it up with soil. So I've got a sort of clump of those growing in the middle, and then the roots have got lots of space to grow out and start getting bigger and more energy to actually produce all of those basil leaves. So I'm just putting some sort of compost around those seedlings, give them a little bit of support. I've planted them ever so slightly lower than when they were in the seedling tray, so they've got a little bit more support, and I can just firm down the compost around those individual seedlings. And yeah, I've got my set of 4 there that can kind of grow away and produce me a nice big pot of basil. So potting up our 2 little lots of basil there, making them into the sort of centerpiece of these new pots, and giving them lots of room to grow. And then when we're sort of cropping basil leaves, you can sort of pinch out the tops and they'll grow more sort of spreading out. So you can just sort of pinch out the top leaves and they'll sort of branch out, grow more of a bushy sort of plant. But at the moment, I just want to grow them a little bit bigger before I start cropping them. Get a nice little healthy pot of basil growing there. Yeah. So of course, I've just replanted something. I've disturbed the roots. You want to make sure you give them a nice water there so the roots go, oh yeah, it's okay. I'm not being put in a desert here. I'm not going to have to shrivel up and die. So go and repot those on. Make sure the compost is pushed down to start with. Plant the seeds and the seedlings in the top there. Press the compost down around them and give them a good water. Excellent. So similar sort of thing for our parsley. Again, if you go and have a look at these in the supermarket, then what you'll find is that it's probably not just one plant. So we can go and get ourselves a pot full of soil, again press it down and go and get a bunch of these parsley seedlings to plant into each pot. So again, I'm just going to give that a little bit more of a water and then just ease these sort of seedlings out. This one's seedlings aren't quite so tough looking, so I'm just going to ease them out with the trowel there. Oops. So I've got a bunch of those seedlings that are going into my pot. Yeah. So pushing those together and so that they've got a little bit of space, and then putting some extra compost around just to support those seedlings in their new home. There we go. So we've got about sort of 5 or 6, maybe even 7 little parsley seedlings there. You'll get a nice big growth and you can keep snipping and cropping those and adding them to all sorts of things. I quite like parsley and tabbouleh. So make up couscous and parsley as a sort of side salad, very sort of a big flavour explosion on a summer picnic with the tabbouleh salad with lots of parsley. And this one's going to be really, really lovely. And again, it can go outside now that there's the frost has passed, and I can probably pot up sort of 4 or 5 little pots of parsley from that one set of seedlings, grow them on, and after a couple of weeks I can start cropping those and having lots of lovely salads in the sunshine in our garden. So we've got some nice seedlings coming along there. The final one, I just want to show you similar sort of thing for our lettuce mix. Apart from this particular lettuce, you can treat in 2 different ways. So either you can plant it in a big pot relatively close together and you can treat it as baby leaf sort of salad, or the ultimate mix lettuce that I've been putting around in the seed shares. These ones can also form reasonably large lettuce plants, so you can let them sort of heart up and they'll form different coloured lettuces. You can't really see on these ones, but I think I showed in one of the previous videos that when they go outside, the red leaves start getting some really lovely rich colour. You've got some of these which are more frilly leaves, some of them which are slightly straighter. So you've got a really nice mix of different lettuces in that ultimate mix. So it makes a lovely sort of mixed leaf salad and saves all that plastic from the supermarket. And you know that the salad is always fresh, 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 because you can just go outside your door and go and pick that from the garden. So lovely to have that ultimate lettuce mix. That's getting a little bit congested. I can pop that on either as a group of them and treat them as small leaf, or separate out the individual seedlings and sort of grow those on in a row, maybe in a raised bed or something, to grow larger lettuces. Entirely up to you. Cool. So we had a look at planting some seeds. We had a look at potting on our basil and our parsley. And we had a little check-in with our seeds from last week. So our spring onions and our chives, and they're doing reasonably well. But I'm going to keep those on the windowsill for the moment. So hopefully that gives you a few ideas for things to plant for the next week. Somebody's saying they love my t-shirt. Thank you very much. Sow, grow, eat, repeat. Do you like that one? And makes a change from my Edible York t-shirt, which is in the wash this week. So thank you all for coming along, and I hope you have lots of fun planting and potting on your seeds. Have a nice week.